Hi everyone, welcome to this session on, are we as people managers ready for Industry 4.0? How can we become ready to take on our roles as people managers or HR people, who can enable this Industry 4.0 to happen. So this session is, are we ready for HR 4.0. This session has been done specifically for the Professional Network Group of India, PNGI. This group has, this group was founded in 2014. And one of its charter points is to create an ecosystem for learning and development. And I am here as a part of this initiative. Let me share my screen and let the discussion begin. As I was mentioning to you, our presentation today is on Are We Ready for HR 4.0? And I am Subhashni. I'm from the founding team of Pexitics People Excellence Indicator Analytics. Our products in the space of talent assessments and surveys lie under pexiscore.com, People Excellence Indicator Score. Um, you know, and I do believe that the business has now started ascribing to the view that to win the marketplace, you must first win in the workplace. Hence, especially with the COVID crisis, this whole concept of people managers, being only process enablers is going to change. We are going to be looking at, you can say that nearly about a decade, what we could have expected would happen a decade later has started happening now with, social distancing, etc., coming into play, work from home coming into place. I think we're going to see a lot of interesting things in the human resources space. As I've mentioned to you, we are an HR and analytics firm based out of Bangalore. You can definitely follow us on LinkedIn, as well as do subscribe to our YouTube channel. When you look at the four industrial revolutions, we know that we've all our factories have reached a stage where there's automated production systems, IT systems, and often, for at least for certain work, we have robotics. Robotics is a part of the manufacturing. And we are saying that now we're going to move to Industry 4.0, which is the smart factory systems, which means there would be autonomous systems driven largely by the Internet of Things and propelled by machine learning. Thus, we are talking about very energy efficient systems where, perhaps the whole process could run absolutely by itself. Yeah. Now, when we are looking at this as an aim of Industry 4.0, how is this workforce which is going to manage such a process look like, right? And when we look at, we try to see what this workforce would be grappling with, what this workforce would have to be conversant with. We find that we would look at people who understand a lot of the smart devices, artificial vision, collaborative robots would be there. Just like human beings, one to the other can collaborate, can decide. So we would expect robots, machines to help us. Now, a workforce which is going to handle such complex processes, which is going to handle such highly automated processes, where for critical decisions, just the way, in the airline industry nowadays, flying is pretty much on autopilot, right? Why is the pilot required? The pilot is required for those critical conditions, for those unusual conditions, for those emergency situations. So what are we looking at really? We're looking at people who are, very, very talented, who can manage those critical conditions, who can all these physical and manual skills, cognitive skills, basic cognitive skills would start declining. Now, you have rightly pointed out that we are looking at data, of course, from a McKinsey study, but this data is for Europe and for the advanced countries. And how does this really fare for India? India is generally about 5 years behind in technology adoption to the advanced countries. So we know that this is pretty much going to come over to India too. And this COVID-19 has ensured that a lot of things which were going to come in 5 years, 10 years from hence is going to come in much faster. I mean, robotics, etc., with the social distancing, with the transportation becoming difficult for, say, 3 to 6 months, are factories really going to wait for migrant labor to come back, or are they going to look at solutions which involve machines and go forward with production? And I think, given the uncertainty, we would try to at least build in some amount of certainty by looking at higher level of automations. Okay, so perhaps what has happened is we have been pushed towards adopting some of the things which we had thought that, in India we will still take time to reach. So what are the skills that we are going to become exceedingly important in the future? Higher cognitive skills. So basic cognitive skills, you can see a guard, the security guard. He just does a basic check. He's there, more for a screening type of a thing. Now, those types of things will perhaps go away. What we will need are people with higher cognitive skills, people who can use some advanced machines. Again, COVID has perhaps ensured that we are all going to have to go through sanitization tunnels. We will go through some temperature checking outcomes, as a part of what we do. So definitely we can expect that we will need to work better with apps, etc., and take decisions using data. And that's where we say higher cognitive skills. We will need social and emotional skills. I think you've been through this remote working situation. What are the type of people who have found it easy to coordinate? I mean, after all, so many tangible coordination points, right? The face-to-face interaction through which you were able to understand their mood, their understand a person is positive or negative, etc. So the non-verbal cues have gone away. Everything has become automated, and it's not been easy. It's not been easy for us who have built up such a substantial skill in understanding other human beings through verbal and non-verbal communications. We will see that social and emotional skills will again see the impact of technology. We will have to figure out better ways, because non-verbal might just be not possible. So we might have to figure out other ways to understand, to question, to know more about our fellow employees. And we have to also see that there's going to be a huge jump in technological skills. We can expect that in every phase of life, technology and its intrusion will only increase. In fact, the technology skill part of it, you can see, has the largest impact. That is where most of us will have to spend our upskilling hours. Right? Now combine all these three parts, the need for higher cognitive skills, the need for social and emotional and soft skills, and the need for higher level of technology enablement, with the fact that we have a workforce which is going to increasingly have millennials in the decision making chair, in the middle and senior managements also. Till now, millennials were only in junior management, have slowly got into middle management, but now you can expect them to be in very much in decision making situations, in chairs of power. So what's going to happen? What's this thing about millennials which I've brought in suddenly? talking about other things, we've suddenly talked about millennials. See, millennials as a generation is a set of people who want meaning in their life. They actually look at their jobs as they're not only pursuing job satisfaction, not only pursuing cash check, their salary, they are also pursuing their own development. Therefore, you find that their attitude towards their bosses is very different. Instead of feeling that my boss knows best, they are likely to debate with their bosses, and they want continuous feedback. So they are not okay with you just coming in for feedback at the end of the appraisal. At the appraisal time, they actually want you to constantly be engaging with them on their feedback, on their growth, how to be better. So they don't want to fix their weakness. That's another point. They always focus on their strength, and they have a collaborative mentality where everyone pitches in and works together. It's not just their job, it's their life. So all this seamless integration, they're very confident, they're very integrated with technology, and they do not think of life being separate from the job. They're pretty honest about things. They expect their job to move into their lives, other life activities, and they don't mind discussing their other life activities, aspirations, and goals in their workplace. What are we going to have now? We are saying we are going to see high level of digitization, technology adherence, social distancing. So actually, physical interactions will reduce. Okay, and we are saying we have a set of people here who are going to become increasingly important in the decision making structure of an organization, who are going to who have specific characteristics, they have specific needs. Okay, so what are we saying really? We are saying HR 4.0 will be a situation where digital HR will promote a digital culture with complete transparency. Because that's what is going to be the basis. We don't have now non-verbal cues. We don't have a physical workplace we share perhaps all the time. It's not a home away from home situation any longer. We are going to see that we will need a lot more transparency, a lot more of upfront telling people what we feel, what we need in this new era. Now, what will we as people managers have to do? We will have to develop new leadership capabilities. We will have to manage the integration of the technology in the workplace. We will have to enhance the employee experience, and this will have to be digital, as we said, because we're going to see a lot of employees not being there in physical all the time. So maybe employees may be requested to come in twice in a week or sometimes. We will have to build an agile and personalized learning culture, because this is a set of people who are very focused on their own learning, and a metrics for valuing human capital. And we will have to embed diversity and inclusion into this. Perhaps that part will get a bit easier, simply because we will move from a personal comfort to a skill based approach, right? So these are the things which we will have to be expected to do. We will have to do if we want to ably support the business to achieve its aims, right? Now let's come to this whole concept of data-driven decision making. I hesitate to use the word analytics in an HR forum, because what happens is often HR people get a bit, they say, oh, this is not for me. We were not taught numbers when we were studying, and that's very true. But all I would want to tell you now is that a lot of the legwork is already being done through softwares as a service. Hence, we only need to understand how to use the outputs. So a data-driven decision-making process in HR actually means being able to consolidate data across different platforms of human resources, combine and clean that data, and finally being able to give the employee what he wants, which is continuous improvement, continuous feedback, and to be able to give business what they want, which is the customer experience to improve because of employee experience. I think all of us know that there have been umpteen number of studies where customer experience and an improvement thereof is directly linked to the revenue growth of an organization. So organizations with good customer experience have much better return on investment, are highly profitable. And the driver of customer experience has been one of the biggest drivers is employee experience. So if the employee is happy with the organization, if the employee feels confident, he is going to ensure that the customer gets a good experience. Therefore, what are we saying really? We are saying that HR will deliver business value. We were always, we have been told that HR has to manage the employees. So I'm assuming that, we'll set that aside for just 1 minute. What we'll focus on is this, how do we link this whole employee experience? How do we, one is make a framework, how do we quantify what is employee experience, and then is it good, is it bad, and then link this employee experience to the business and revenue goals, so that we can say that out of the different parts of an employee experience, which are the parts which in my business are directly impacting my organizational goals, my business revenue, my business cost, right? So when we look at it, what we have done here at Pexiscore is that we have created we have defined employee experience as a combination of people, PPE, which is performance, productivity, and engagement. So if I see that my people are performing well, they're highly productive and highly engaged, I can say that the employee experience is good. Okay. Conversely, if I find that any of these three indicators is actually lower, then I should be ready to accept that we need to work on some of the levers. Okay. So what are the levers? The different processes that HR handles: hiring, L&D, compensation and benefits, promotions, engagements, 360-degree appraisal, talent assessments, leaves, claims, attrition. All of these are processes within this whole concept of managing the employee experience, right? And what is the measures of employee experience? We have defined it as performance, productivity, and engagement. So if my employees are performing well, they are highly productive and highly engaged, we can be pretty sure that they are having a good employee experience. This brings us to, where does the data come? Okay, so that's great that we're talking about HR analytics, we're talking about smart decisions, data-driven decisions, but what data are we talking about? And herein, I will say that we're talking about people data and systems data. So people data, so first let's look at the systems data. Systems within human resources, and we have pointed out the different systems. You would have processes linked to these systems, and you have policies linked to these systems, which will come out in the form of the data. Okay, so at different points, you come to know how many leaves somebody has taken, you come to know what was his appraisal score, and so on and so forth. So those are the systems data. And then you have some people data. What are these people data? These are basically data related to talent and engagement, where talent data and the engagement data comes together with the HRMS process data and policy data, and we are able to create a combined database of human resources data. Okay, somewhere, why am I bringing this up? Because today, somewhere, the whole focus has always been on creating a database and MIS system related to only and only the HRMS data, the L&D systems data, so the different processes and systems. Somewhere we have not yet made our talent database, and I am a big advocate that this is what is going to be the differentiator. This is where you're going to have a critical competitive advantage if you can just now create your talent database. How would you create it? You would create it with a combination of talent assessments plus a combination of 360-degree feedback and qualitative inputs, right? And some information which your HRMS, HRIS systems capture. Okay. So a combination of these put together will give you what we can call the talent database, and the not only the talent database but also your HR database, the HR analytics database. It will have talent, it will have engagement, policy, and data. Now, when we look at what we have, how is HR analytics, how does database decisions get absorbed in an organization? So yes, everything starts with data, and now we know that most organizations, medium and large scale, even small ones, have data of some kind around human resources. Then we have moved to creating monthly MISs, daily MISs, a lot of graphs and charts. What we need to move to is predictive. Okay, so instead of documenting that so many people attrited, we should now move to be able to say these guys are likely to attrite in the next 3 months, and so on and so forth. So we would, what could happen, and then prescriptive, which is that if I want to change this probability, I want that less people should leave, what should we do as a company? Depending on our capabilities, not on the other people's capabilities, not on some other industry's capabilities. And finally, when once we try out, some of these um, uh, recommendations or that we have on how to handle the predictive analytics and the prescriptive analytics outcomes, then we will learn that yes, this works for us and this didn't work for us, right? So the learning has to be imbibed and taken forward. Okay. So what are we saying therefore today? We are saying that we are seen as business enablers and decision executors by the business, but we have to move to becoming the business partners and the decision enabler and advisor. Okay, so we should actually be able to enable a decision. We should be able to suggest that, see, we suggest that this is the better way to go. Okay, not that aap bataiye kya karna hai na? So when we record so where are we, therefore, when we say we are a business enabler or a decision executor, what do we have? We have the records, right, to prove that yes, this person joined us, this is what he did within the organization, etc. We have measurements and metrics, dashboards, discussions with business, rules and policies to help guide the business, the employee journey to take decisions. And we have discussion and feedback loops. So you have employee performance management when we interact with the employee, engagement events, attrition. At the point of attrition, we have discussions, right? So there are, these points are already there in the company. What are we saying? Therefore, we need, we also, therefore, in certain sense, we have some HRMS data. We have the process and the policy data. Okay. What are we saying? Therefore, perhaps some companies have talent, a talent database also, where you have the latest skills of the employees, you have some information about his attributes, aptitude, his behavior, his mental maturity, happiness quotient also. So if not, then that part has to be built in, and together we will then be able to advise the business on what to do on each case that comes up for different employees. Always remember, that human resources is not a thing that a company does. It's the thing which should run the business. Today, it's not happening like that for many companies, but HR 4.0 is that, is being able to become the decision enabler or decision advisor for all things people. Now, what are the skills, therefore, that an HR person needs to actually execute whatever will be required within HR 4.0 to support Industry 4.0? See, we had we had seen earlier. The same skills which are important for different other departments will become important for us. Higher cognitive skills, that means literacy, writing, quantitative statistical skills, critical thinking, complex information processing, because we're going to have more and more apps, less and less physical interaction, and more dependency on our decisions. So, sorry. So do remember, we are talking about moving from a decision executor to being a decision enabler, right? So these are things we'll have to invest in. When we look at social and emotional or soft skills, I think HR people on generally are pretty good with them, as compared to other departments. We can have, we can of course better ourselves at all points, but I think we are pretty good with communication, negotiation, empathy, ability to learn continuously. Here, I think HR has to catch up, because somewhere we are teaching all the departments, but here within human resources, we are so busy operationally, often we are not able to invest in our continuous learning, and then to manage others and be adaptable. So I think other than ability, not the ability, but also the opportunity to learn continuously, I think that's where one space where human resources has to catch up. Now, when we look at technologically, we will have to learn basic to advanced IT skills, data analysis, engineering, and research skills. Again, what will happen, we will be forced to do a lot of these things simply because, as I said, because a lot of digital stuff will happen, and we ourselves may not be able to reach office every day. We would not be able to interact so much. So all the non-verbal communication cues will go away. People will request for clearer communication, which is digital, for which we will need to also imbibe a lot of stuff like this. Okay. So this is what I feel that, in human resources, what we will see is we will see a lot of investment in how to write clear job descriptions, how to map the job descriptions to candidates and see if they are matching it or not, without multiple rounds of telecalling. So we're thinking stuff like Pexitics for our app, which enables you to quickly screen candidates who are interested, being able to understand the interest of a person just digitally, because we are also talking, so assessments, etc. When you imbibe it, what happens? Only the serious candidates are going to spend that half an hour, etc., doing the assessment, right? So you will understand his intention as well as his ability to progress with the organization. Okay. That's from a process point of view. From the analytics point of view, yes, HR data hasn't reached that stage where you need to step outside the bounds of Excel itself, because Excel has now integrated itself with so much more. So even advanced languages like Python, etc., you can integrate it on Excel. So what will happen is we'll all become users, just like we are learning. We've become, hasn't COVID-19 lockdown ensured that we are all so savvy with WhatsApp on our desktop, being seamless communication, Zoom meetings going on, and other communication still flowing in, right? So what's happening is we are learning to manage multiple apps and do multitasking on different formats. But what will happen is that because this will become a norm, we will need more stable practices. Hence, just like Jira, I'm giving an example of the software called Jira, which is used a lot in by technology teams to see which are the open items, or what are the errors, and assign jobs. They have come up with these versions which can be used by non-tech teams too. And I can see that these types of softwares are going to improve. Okay, they will become a point of coordination. People might be working at in situations where they may not be able to mirror the office timing, and we cannot enforce it. That is what I would like to say, that a lot of the work might now be done at the discretion of the individual, and we have to get our work done also, and our work should not suffer, and we should also not get too stressed. So we will need to adopt some practices like this. Now, what therefore is going to happen, that once we become digitally more savvy, we learn a bit of analytics, we learn a bit of coding in Excel, how to make use some of these free plugins which allow us to drive linear regression, logistic regressions and stuff. What will happen? Okay, so what we are saying is that these metrics which you see on the left side, these all of us already know, right? We have on an annual basis, on a monthly basis, we do go through these metrics, but these are going to get integrated with business performance indicators like revenue and cost, business productivity, as well as it will get integrated at a personnel level, as an employee level, with the employee performance, productivity and engagement, in the form of feedback loops, in the form of help. We will have to give mentoring, we'll have to give the employees on how to perform better in the environment that the organization has, which will be ever changing. So at least we can expect that for another 6 months to 1 year, it's not going to stabilize. There will be ups, there will be downs, there will be government interferences. So we can expect these things will happen. Okay, so this is what we are saying we will that will happen. We will need to link these metrics, one for the business, one for the employee, and ensure that we are able to effectively digitally with advanced data technologies communicate with both of them. How we are able to, how our people metrics are able to guide us to effectively manage business performance as well as employee growth and feedback cycles. So I am coming back to my pet, a project, which is that what type of data will we have to maintain? Because everyone talks about it, garbage in, garbage out. So the question is, what is not garbage? Like, how can we be assured that we are capturing the right data? Now, what, as I've said, that most places we have some sort of an HRMS system, some sort of an employee lifecycle data capture system, and that data is there on an employee ID basis. Sometimes there's missing data, quality of data could be suspect, but there would be some places, comp and ben, date of joining, attrition, perhaps certain parts of your organization, the people management processes, you would have data. What perhaps we need to ensure is the building up of the employee talent data. Like I was telling you, this would include your behavioral characteristics, your skills that they have, including upskilling. So lots of employees do personal courses, their interest areas they want to work in. So information like this, their feedback, 360-degree feedback, where you understand how the organization views them, how their managers view them, how their subordinates view them, how their peers view them, right? So the qualitative data about that, all this type of data would be called the employee talent data, and these together would feed dashboards and analytics, and that's what we are anticipating should emerge out of it. And we are working on some projects on this on these lines, which could be looking futuristic for some companies, but all I can tell you is that you can do it. It's not so difficult. In fact, as a measure of our solidarity with organizations, what we have done is we've offered that we'll create this database for you. We'll conduct the assessments, allow you to get a database of all your employees in one place, related to your talent, which means attributes of behavior, aptitude, interests, skills. We will do it and give it to you. Okay, where with a pivot, with a smart pivot, and some basic correlations, etc., done, so that you can immediately, if you have a certain situation, like you have a situation where you need to plug in somebody because somebody is being quarantined, and you're trying to figure out that in my company, who's that one or two people whom I can consider immediately, for this job. You can just go and quickly look at these, or I can upskill with 1 day of training. Yes, you can look at these database points and you will be able to conclude. So what is going to happen, rather than going to the manager and checking, you can go with your recommendation saying that, listen, in your team, these are 2, 3, 4 people who look very much like this person. They may be the right people to take on this job, at least for it interim measure. Okay, you can, if employees come back and because of their locational constraints, they're feeling hesitant to come to whichever location they were earlier, you can see that in the locations where they are, can I quickly match them up to some other requirements, and I can just send out this data to my people managers and tell them, listen, these are the 5 people with these characteristics, these scores in certain behavioral traits in their skills and all that. Would you want to look at them? है ना? So what are we saying? That the employee data, the people data is where which seems to be lacking today in organizations, because we do have process data, we do have policy data, and if we can just quickly engage and get this, it will help us take a lot of smart decisions in the as we try to struggle to come back to normal, it becomes business as usual, right? Now, therefore, I have come to my last slide in as such, that the employee talent data and the HRMS data will give us the answers to a lot of things. They'll give us hassle-free, data-driven, transparent, unbiased, and consistent answers. Like, how is my internal talent pipeline or succession pipeline looking? Can we create a potential versus current performance grid to identify critical resources of each department? Who is likely to attrite in the next 3 months? Is that acceptable? So instead of waiting for us to then tag the attrition as regrettable or non-regrettable, can we upfront decide who we don't want should leave us? How can I create salary parity within different people who have been hired at different salaries at different points of time for similar roles, for similar levels? How to increase engagement by an optimum engagement budget, by when we don't want to increase the spends, right? Identifying the top learning needs of each employee, because every employee is going to come, and now the manager also is not seeing the person physically. It's difficult to then perhaps your technical skills you can definitely decide, but sometimes the other skills, mental maturity, is he ready for promotions, those types of skills, you can quickly give a feedback. What coaching is required to make my leaders perform better and with less stress? So we don't want them, because things are changing, they will be on the forefront of change. The leader will be the most see, he's not got all the answers. He's never seen certain situations like COVID-19 before, right? So he will need help. Are we there to help him? Can we proactively help him? So this is the business part to it, and for the employee we can answer some questions like, what is the potential of growth in this organization for me? I want to change my job role. Which jobs will I fit in this company? Why do you think I'll fit those jobs? So when, as a people manager, you say, listen, why don't you look at these 2-3 jobs? So you should have a reason why you're recommending it, right? Why is my colleagues getting higher pay, though I am more senior in age or experience? On which areas I should focus to improve my performance? How can I see the skill potential and level of maturity in my subordinates? So all these types of questions will come to you. People will have higher access to you digitally. If you don't satisfy them, you will see a drop in employee experience. They'll say HR does not respond. There will not be so much informal talks that we used to have earlier. So we will have to figure out rational and reasonable ways to discuss with both the business as well as the employees. As I've already mentioned to you, as part of our COVID support program, we are saying we'll help you build your talent database, your employee talent database, so that in this time when you have to take quick decisions, smart decisions, plug and play decisions, you can take. It will take not more than 30 minutes for each of your employees, 30 to 45 minutes perhaps of their time, and all the data will come and sit with you. You will have, it's absolutely online, cloud based, so you will not have there is not much that you will have to coordinate. Just one round of assessments which you'll have to roll out, okay? And you will be on top of a pile of data which is absolutely mineable, absolutely decision making. With this, I will just share with you, so I have got some questions on how this PPE, this employee experience, which we are saying it has 3 components: the people performance, people productivity, and people engagement. How does a dashboard or a linkage with, the business goals look like. And let me just take you through the same. So this is a prototype of a dashboard which I have created. Here you can see these were the metrics we have already discussed. These we know that in some form or the other your organization would be tracking. You would already have an MIS system or an MIS person who's creating it. But there are still some questions which are unanswered, and we want to be able to answer it. About the data, like I told you, I've taken a mix of 100 data points. This 100 data points include certain talent assessment data, certain applicant tracking data, HRMS data points, right? Your performance management system, the engagement survey, if you have a separate vendor, compensation and benefits data, and so on and so forth. So, and here I think the additional piece of information which we have plugged in is the finance, from the finance department, the revenue data. Okay. Again, this is a prototype. The idea is to give you a sense of how things should flow when we are looking at HR 4.0. Now with this set of data, we have created three storyboards: the performance storyboard, the productivity storyboard, and the engagement storyboard, because we are defining custom employee experience as a combination of performance, productivity, and engagement. So the first graph, like any other dashboard, so the feature I think of play is not the dashboard itself, but the fact that and I mean, like most dashboards, it's real time. It's interactive. What we bring here is the fact that you have this particular graph where you can see the the play of the metrics, the performance metrics that we have created with the revenue. And then over here you can actually see the levers, which drive performance, so the performance score, count of engagement events, L&D programs, 360-degree survey score, and so on and so forth, as well as the recruitment scores, of different kinds: the average recruitment score, skill score, competency score, and all that. All of these are linked to the performance. If I want to see the people who have got a higher level of performance in my organization, which have a score of preference grade of 3 plus in 2020 appraisal cycle, I can see that on an average their scores in recruitment, etc., were higher, and so on and so forth. So this similarly an engagement dashboard which tells you how engagement is linked to your revenues, also tells you how it is linked to the levers which we can actually influence, right? Now what I think is the special part of it is where we are saying that even the analytics will be included. So here is just a snapshot for you to see that. Here you can see that when we look at if the KPI of the organization is to include the tenure in the company, so we really want people to spend more time with us, then the things that we should do or not do, which should affect all our levers, so it should not be a unilateral decision. So if people with previous experience, they actually stay for less time with us. Okay, so somewhere as an organization, it may be a better idea for us to look at people with less experience, and therefore, of course, to counter that, what will happen? We will have to build in more robust learning and development practices, right? So you can see here people who with L&D programs in the last 3 years, who have higher L&D programs, seem to be spending higher level of time in the company. The people with a lower joining CTC seem to be spending higher amount of time in the company. So again, maybe a lower joining CTC is linked to lesser experience. So it's all linking together. So what we also recommend is that we should have this type of an analytics scoreboard, and this we create, this is created by machine learning within Pexitics. So you would actually be able to see it per department, per location, etc., per level in the organization and all that. So this is the type of thing which will holistically help us to make the change into HR 4.0. With this, we are looking forward to conclude this session, and I really thank the Professional Network Group of India for giving me this opportunity to talk about how an HR manager can actually move from the current level to the HR 4.0. As you can see, some quick steps, some smart steps can ensure that these are huge leaps for us. We don't have to spend too much time trying to build a framework, trying to build things. It is easier to just look at plug and play options like my organization, Pexitics. Do reach me at subhashini@pexitics.com if you need any help on any part of what was covered in this presentation. And we look forward to interacting with you really, really soon. Thank you.